Welcome to the town meeting preview. My name is Sean Kadim, the town administrator. This is our first, which will hopefully be reoccurring, preview to town meetings where we'll go through each warrant article to better inform and educate the voters of town meeting. I have a number of special guests here with me today. Florice Craig, who is the town clerk, will be talking about new technology that will be implemented into this new town meeting and will be used going forward for voting measures. I also have John Aubin, who is the town planner. We have John Alves, who is the chairman of the Community Preservation Committee. We also have Jill Brilliant from the school department, who will be also speaking to a school department warrant article. So before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that town meeting is this Monday, November 8th at 7 p.m. It will be at the high school. Just as a strong advisory, masks are going to be strongly advised. The school department and the school committee have taken a vote, and it is a requirement from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that all educational programs and buildings are mandated to use masks. While we are at town meeting, we do not fall into that category, but because we are going to be at town meeting and there is no indoor gathering mandate at this time, we just strongly advise in conjunction with the CDC to make sure that we're masking, and if you can't mask, that we do respond to the social distancing at that time. All of our documents are available at cconc-ma.gov. If you go to news and announcements there, you will see the annual fall town meeting. If you click on that link, you will find the warrant articles as well as the fund balances that will give you a list of all our balances from free cash to stabilization accounts to the other post-employment benefits as well. So you can review those in advance of town meeting. Now I'll turn it over to Florice, and I'll welcome Florice here. Florice, can you tell us a little bit about the voting machines? And before you do that, I really do want to take the opportunity to recognize you for being proactive. I know the last meeting there were some tightly contested votes, and I think this measure is really, really good, and it helps you folks right from the get-go, especially with the ballot questions or any questions that are 2/3 or are very close to really get a more accurate count. So thank you for your taking that proactive initiative.
Absolutely, absolutely. This should really help out at town meetings, as Mr. Kadim had said. It will be good when we have some tight votes. So it's exciting news. So we have this new electronic voting system. It is a radio frequency. So no internet is used for it. So no, and nobody can hack in and, add votes here and there. So I just want people to know that. So these were brought to my attention by other towns. Many other towns in Massachusetts do use them. It comes highly recommended. So hopefully we'll have success with them as well.
Great.
So it's very simple to use. There is a green button for yes vote, a red button for a no vote. There is a 30-second window where you can change your vote as many times as you want during those 30 seconds. Let's say oh no, I wanted to vote yes. You can do that. But then as the countdown happens, your vote is locked in at the very end. Mm-hmm. You will see on the screen here, it'll say OK on it. That means that your vote has counted. Also, this little screen on the top, it will tell you the article number and just a very small, brief summary of what the article is. Let's say it's Article 1, budget.
Right.
It's very brief. It is a small device. So what will happen is you go in, you check in to town meeting as you normally do. We'll check, the poll workers will check off your name, and there is a number on the back of these. Let's say this is 460. You are now 460. We're going to write it next to your name. You take the device and go sit down. This is your device, no one else's. This is your vote. You can't give it to your wife, your cousin, your uncle. So from there, when the town moderator calls for the vote, you will plug it in, wait 30 seconds. Some towns have said 30 seconds is a little too long. So a lot of people have already made up their mind how they want to vote.
Right.
So in the future, we can scale that down as well.
Okay.
So once the vote has been taken, everyone has voted, you will see it in real time on the projection screen in front of a town meeting, which is great. So everyone will know it immediately what the vote is.
Now, will they see the numbers associated with it? Because I'm sure people at home where you just had 460, would folks be able to see that 460 voted a certain way? Or is it just coming in as
It's just
total?
coming in as.
Okay.
But now that you mention it, that is part of the software. If we did in the future want to use this for other reasons or want to do that, we have the capability of doing that.
Because I know some people are just uncomfortable with some of the votes. They like to just quickly put their hand in the air and not necessarily be recognized one way or the other for votes, and they
Right.
prefer to be a little bit more confidential. And I know
Yes.
they may be concerned with that, so I was just wondering as to whether or not that would be displayed.
No,
at town
it
meeting.
won't be. So
Okay.
it is a private. That is a concern of. So no one will know how you vote.
Great.
Yep. So at the end of the evening, when the meeting is dissolved, you just take your device, and you come up, and we'll have poll workers at the exits, and you just drop your device in. And just try to remember not to slip it in your pocket or whatever and walk away with it. Because if you do, we will find you.
Yep.
Because the number is associated with your name. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, how much did this cost roughly for just as the initiative, so that the general public understands, and hopefully they don't walk away with something that's very, very small, looks like a small car remote?
Well, it was in the thousands.
Yep.
So we used CARE Act money for it. So it was the $22,000
Yep.
for it. So we were
Right.
fortunate to be able to use that money for it. So
just as a reminder, please,
Yes.
this is brand new technology. At the end of town meeting, please don't walk away with this.
Yes.
But there is a safety net, as Florice had mentioned. They are numbered individually, so we will be able to figure out who has which device. So in the event that you do accidentally put it in your pocket or into your purse or something like that,
Yep.
we will be able to contact you and just remind you that you do have the device to return it. But I think this is really going to help streamline the meeting itself, because it is very convoluted when we're having to count and recount, and it takes anywhere from a good 10 to 15 minutes to really trying to get those in. So now
Absolutely.
it's going to be instantaneously,
Absolutely.
and I'm sure you're excited about
Yes.
the ease on,
Yes, I am.
on trying to get this more accurate
yes,
voting underway.
more accurate
so.
voting. And you did mention that a lot of clerks said it cuts down the time considerably.
And I believe we're going to have some special guests as well at town meeting that's going to be watching this new technology. Is that?
Yes, so we have Laura Schwall, who's the town clerk in Rehoboth, and the town administrator and some of their finance director and other folks coming. They have bought the system as well.
Yeah.
So they'll be coming in to see how it all works.
Great. So we'll be the guinea pig.
We're the guinea pigs, yes.
Great, great.
Yes.
I'm sure everything will go smoothly, but I want to thank you again for taking the opportunity
very
to
welcome.
come on.
Yes, absolutely.
Share this great, wonderful technology with the folks at home, and
Yep.
Hopefully we'll see them all and everything works seamlessly.
Yes.
Thank you, Florice.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Article 1 is the committee reports. So if there are any building committees or town committees that want to give a report, that would be under Article 1, at which point a member of the Board of Selectmen would make a motion to accept all reports that have been presented to town meeting the night of town meeting on November 8th. Article 2 is the transfer and appropriation of free cash. The Board of Selectmen had adopted financial policy guidelines, which they adopted on April 14th, 2021. We have $3,018,264 of free cash that was certified by the Department of Revenue in October. You can see the fund balances and the financial policies. The financial policies can be found online, so if you click on departments under the seekonk-ma.gov website, click on departments, click on administration. When you get to the administration website, over on the left-hand side, you'll see a list of menus. There you can see the financial documents. If you just click on the drop-down menu, you will be able to select financial policies, and there you'll see the PDF file for the financial policies. So the financial policies require or established that our free cash would have 15% transferred to the stabilization account to help build up that account. 15% would be transferred to the municipal capital stabilization account, further building up that balance as well. 15% transferred to the building and infrastructure stabilization account, which will be used for, as it's suggested, buildings and infrastructure programs. And then another 15% was going to be transferred to the other post-employment benefits, or known as OPEB, to help build up the unfunded liability that the town has there. So that equates to 60% of our free cash. That leaves roughly 40% of our free cash unappropriated. So 30% of the 40% that has been unappropriated will be used for one-time expenses or other capital items as deemed by town meeting or the Board of Selectmen needing appropriation. And then we're anticipating leaving a 10% of our certified free cash on an annual basis as a rollover to the next fiscal year to ensure that we have a good balance in the event that there's any type of deficits throughout the year, so we don't end in the negative, and that will also help to bolster the certification of free cash in a positive at the end of the fiscal years. So Article 3 is a zoning bylaw amendment, and with me today is the town planner, John Aubin. John, thank you for being here and explaining the Article 3 to the residents of town meeting.
Thanks for
and
having
residents of Seekonk. So can you just tell us a little bit about what the zoning bylaw amendment is about on Article 3?
So Article 3 is an amendment to the land use table in the zoning bylaw to adopt a list of prohibited uses. This came out of some of the discussions that the Planning Board and Board of Selectmen had over the last year or so with regard to the land use table, and particularly with regard to the industrial district.
Great. So is there anything specific that the members of town meeting need to know about this?
By way of process, the Planning Board made the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to consider the adoption of the zoning amendment. Then the Board of Selectmen referred it back down to the Planning Board for a public hearing. Planning Board gave it a positive recommendation at that public hearing. There was no public comment in favor or opposed to the amendment presented during the public hearing, and the Planning Board will be submitting their report at town meeting.
Great. And just as a reminder, since this is a zoning bylaw amendment, this will require a 2/3 vote. So in order for it to pass, we would have to have a 2/3 approval of the zoning amendment bylaw. Article 4 is the 18 to 22-year-old transition program, and I'm joined with a special guest from the school department, Jill Brilliant, who's the business manager for the schools. Jill, thank you for being here.
Thank you for welcoming.
Love the opportunity for you to come on and just kind of explain what this article is for, and really if you could just talk about what we were appropriated at
Sure.
town meeting, what the bids came in, and what we're looking to do.
Yes. So I am here in regards to the 18 to 22 transition program. We were awarded a $350,000 warrant article at the last town meeting. The bids came in a little bit higher, and that is primarily due to COVID. So our lowest bid was $509,080, and our warrant article was for $350,000. So the program is very important to us, especially to keep Seekonk students in district. So we are asking to be able to use the money, which is about $93,000 in the Special Education Stabilization Fund, for special education expenses in order to help fund the project.
Great. Can you just speak a little bit to the project itself? So
Sure.
for folks at home who may not have been familiar with the vote that was taken at a previous town meeting, what is it that you guys are looking to do?
So 18 to 22, we need to fund students till they're 22 years old. And this is a transition project. So when the kids, teaching them life skills, get out into the community. Right now, what happens, because we don't have the program, we need to send them out of district. So this would be built at the high school, and it would, in order to keep students here for transition services later on in life, as opposed to sending them out to
Right.
out
So
of
by bringing them
district.
into district, we're saving significant money, right?
Correct.
So what's on average? Do you
Correct.
know the average out of
On
district?
average, it's about $83,000, and that's just tuition. So you're not even thinking about the transportation cost as well. We do need to pay for that in addition.
So this is essentially seed money to get the program up and running. We're going
Correct.
to renovate a
Correct.
space in the high school.
Yes.
So obviously, as we've all experienced, there are significant increases in all the building programs and projects that we've got going on.
Definitely.
But this truly is a savings to the community once we're able to get students back into district.
Correct.
Roughly to the tune of, would you say 80,000? Is that what you said?
It's about $83,000.
$83,000.
And it depends on the level of their disability as well. And then, of course, you have the additional transportation cost that's tied to that.
Great. So roughly, 6 to 7 students coming back into district essentially pays for the initial seed money of this project.
Right, right. So we have kids that are out right now. We're hoping that some could come back into district, but we also have kids identified that will stay with us that would have been having to go out of district had we not had this program.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And as Ms. Brilliant had mentioned, that because this is coming from the special education stabilization account, any transfer from a stabilization account into the general fund or any type of appropriation does require a 2/3 vote. So this will require a 2/3 vote in order to pass. With that, I want to thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully this isn't the last. We'll have this in the future, and as long as we have school department warrants, we'll welcome you back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jill. Article number 5 is a road acceptance for Hidden Hills Drive, and again with me is Town Planner John Aubin. John, can you walk us through what the process is like for a road acceptance?
Yeah, yes. So once a developer completes their subdivision in accordance with the plans that are approved by the planning board, they ask the Board of Selectmen to lay out and accept the roadway. That's a 2-stage process through the Massachusetts general laws. The Board of Selectmen is responsible for actually laying out the roadway, and then town meetings has the authority to accept or not accept the roadway as a public street. Once the developer makes their application to the Board of Selectmen, it's referred down to the planning board for a recommendation with regard to laying out of the roadway and identifying any outstanding issues that might be there with the development. In this particular instance, the planning board made a positive recommendation of acceptance and laying out of the roadway. As far as any conditions, the only conditions that were presented by the planning board were just the final recordation, which are the recordation of the final legal documents transferring the property from the ownership of the property where the roadway sits, from the ownership of the developer to the town, and then just making sure that the drainage system is maintained in a proper manner as we go through that transfer process.
So now this is Hidden Hills Drive, Assessor Map 17, Lot 113 and 118, obviously in Seekonk, Massachusetts. Deeds and Plan Book 515, page 72. So obviously, assuming that this has an approval at town meeting, this now then becomes the town's publicly accepted roadway and could be, and is part of our Chapter 90 formula.
Correct. That's why the town's interested in making sure we go through the acceptance process and get these roadways accepted. The more mileage that we have in in accepted roadways, that directly plays into our Chapter 90 computation as far as what we get for highway funds from the state.
Great. And so all the concerns that typically are reviewed by the planning board and the Board of Selectmen in terms of infrastructure, storm drains, all those infrastructure improvements have been done to the acceptance and expectations of both the planning board and the Board of Selectmen. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The stormwater system we handed over to a homeowners association that'll be responsible for that, and the roadway will become the responsibility of the town through the Department of Public Works. Wonderful.
Thank you for joining us, and hopefully this isn't the last time we see you for some of these amendments.
Nope.
Article 6 is appropriating $220,000 to the general fund for the replacement of town hall septic system. Over the summer, we received word, unfortunately, that the town hall septic system, which was put in with the original building back in the 70s, early 80s, has failed. So we need to do engineering design and a septic replacement. So the cost for that is $220,000. So we're requesting a transfer of $220,000 from free cash to help fund that expense. Article 7 is appropriating $55,000 from free cash to fund the collective bargaining agreement with the dispatchers. We have just reached agreement with the dispatchers in terms of the collective bargaining agreement. So we're looking to fund the salary portion and increases for that contract, which again is $55,000. Article 8 is looking to reduce the building committee for the DPW building project from 7 to 5. At last spring town meeting, we had submitted that article to the board, to the town meeting, at which we were asking for 5 members to be appointed, 3 coming from the Board of Selectmen, 2 coming from the town moderator. On town meeting floor, that was amended to increase the number from 5 to 7. To date, we have not had enough individuals who are interested in that project, so we're looking to have that reduced and amended back down to 5. Article 9 is looking to appropriate $2 million from the Community Preservation Committee, or the Community Preservation Act Fund, for the purchase of land on Lincoln and Elm Street. And I'm joined with the chairman of the Community Preservation Committee, Mr. John Alves. Mr. Alves, thank you for joining us.
And pleased to be here.
Always a staple at one of the Board of Selectmen meetings and town meetings, so it's a pleasure to have you as my guest as we go through the town meeting warrant preview for the good folks at home. Can you just tell us a little bit about this project, how came about and what we're really looking to do.
It's the farm at 462 Lincoln Street, and we're hoping to have town meeting approve the article for the farm and buildings, which will allow us to build ball fields, community gardens, community playgrounds, and preserve some of the historic nature of the town of Seekonk.
Mm-hmm. Now, can you speak a little bit about, and I know some folks at home are really not familiar with the Community Preservation Act and/or the Community Preservation funds and the bucket of funding that we have available. I know every spring town meeting we have the appropriation there too. However, this one is looking for an appropriation from two different categories. So can you just speak to the various buckets and potentially what we're looking to have funded from the general reserve and the historic portion of it?
The Community Preservation Act was approved at ballot in 2009, and since then we've been collecting a surtax on your property tax and accumulating those funds, as well as buying other properties and things. But in this particular case, we have roughly $307,000 in the historic reserved fund, and $1,900,000 roughly in the unreserved fund. And so we're going to pull $300,000 from the historic and the balance for $1.6 million plus from the unreserved fund. The funds with community preservation you're required each year to put them into a particular budget or bucket, if you will, community housing or affordable housing, historic preservation, and open space or recreation space. So in this case, we're taking money out of the historic bucket and utilizing for purchase of this property.
And I think one of the important discussions that folks at town meeting need to understand is that the Community Preservation Committee cannot purchase, or even the town essentially cannot purchase property with Community Preservation Act monies if the appraisal is lower than what the purchase price is looking for. So can you walk me through the process on how did we make that determination that $2 million is a worthy, I guess, sales price? And just really kind of what's the, I guess, discussion with the property owner if they're amenable to it?
Yes, indeed. The first thing that we need to do then in order to consider the property is get an appraisal on it. And we did that a couple months ago, and the appraisal came in at $2 million, luckily enough, and that is acceptable to Paul and Connie Medeiros, who are Paul is the executor of the estate, the Medeiros estate. He has indicated that that's acceptable to him, and now we need to go to town meeting and get an approval from town meeting, and we have a unique opportunity to purchase this property.
And you say unique opportunity because I believe, and I don't want to speak for the Medeiroses, but they did have an offer on the table from a developer who was potentially looking to develop those parcels of land at a significantly higher price than what the town, number one, can afford to pay for it, and based on an appraisal could pay for it. So to your point, it is a very unique opportunity, and hopefully, the folks at town meeting recognize that. So we will be able to obviously preserve that property, which was a farm. As you had mentioned, we're going to use roughly just under $1.7 million coming from the undesignated reserve fund, and then roughly $300,000 coming from the historic category of the monies. Now, is there historic value on that property? Is it the structures? What are we looking to place the historic portion of monies on?
Mostly it's the structures. In order to utilize historic preservation funds, you need to either have it designated as a National Historic Site, and it is not, or the local Historic Commission has to make a determination that it has a significant history, culture in terms of the town, and the Historical Commission last month I think met toured the property and made the decision that it is significantly of cultural
Historic
value.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining here, and as we say goodbye to Mr. Alves, this ballot question only requires a simple majority for approval. So, Mr. Alves, thank you so much.
Thank you, and hopefully that, and please do vote. Show up.
Perfect, thank you. And finally, Article number 10 is the town charter, the home rule charter. Here, you'll see the town charter is attached to the warrant article in the back. We have strike-through, so if there's any deletions coming from the town charter, you will see all changes that have been highlighted in gray. Removal of language has a strike-through, so you'll be able to see what the language was with a strike-through, so you can see that. All new language being inserted is highlighted in gray with red bolds. There's also a note section, which will not be included in the charter, but there are notes within the town charter to explain why the changes are being recommended. And those are identified as note, and you will be able to see the reasoning behind the recommended changes. So this is, again, is a very important article before us. The Board of Selectmen did put together a town charter review committee to go through the entire charter, make recommendations back to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen has taken their recommendations under advisement. They reviewed it. They sent it over to legal. Legal also included some additional legal changes to the town charter as recommendations. The board reviewed the totality of those recommended changes and had discussions and actually took votes on whether or not to move forward with those recommended changes. They did institute some additional changes. So what you have before you is the recommended Board of Selectmen town charter changes based on all that information between the town charter committee, review committee, and town council coming forward to make those changes. So if you do have any questions before November 8th, as you're going through the document, please feel free to call my office. Myself or the assistant TA will be more than willing to discuss and walk you through those changes. But for the most part, it is very, very detailed and very specific. Again, all changes have been highlighted in gray. Those being deleted will have strike-through. Those being added will be in red. So hopefully it is very transparent in terms of what we're looking to do. At the end of the day, we hope everybody shows up to town meeting. We want to thank you in advance. I know the life is very, very hectic, so taking the opportunity and the time to take time to go to town meeting and actually take some votes on some very important town business. I personally want to thank you in advance of that. And if you have any questions before that, please feel free to give me a call at the office, which is 508-336-2910. And again, all the documentation will be on the town website. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Monday, November 8th.